Are you allowed to talk about it?
Yeah, well, I'm not in it anymore, so
Will they
I
come
don't
for you?
follow any rules. No one will come. I mean, I don't think so. I've been in a few cults, though.
This was recorded at the Media Joint.
That is so rogue.
Boy, that's a bit rogue.
Is it even that rogue?
Welcome back to another episode of A Bit Rogue, and welcome to 2025. In the studio today, I have a very special guest, Ben Lee. Welcome to the studio. Welcome to A Bit Rogue.
Thank you for having me. First guest of 25.
Yes,
I'm
first
honoured.
guest.
I'm honoured.
Most people know you from, who aren't all over the Aussie music scene, know you from Catch My Disease. You had We're All In This Together was played at the end of the Com Games.
Mm-hmm.
Does it give you the shits now that your music doesn't go as phenomenal as it did when we didn't have social media back then?
It's interesting because when music had to sort of get across through radio and through MTV or, you know, whatever it was, those sorts of things, the hits you had were kind of different. Like, in a way, all music has become niche now.
Yeah.
Like, there are massive, massive artists with huge songs that your mum will have never heard.
Yeah.
Because she's not in the orbit or in that algorithm that's
Yeah.
delivering it to her. Whereas, you know, coming from the 90s, once you had a hit song, everyone knew it. Like
Yeah.
everyone in the country. So it was kind of like exciting in that sense. But I don't know, I've always just had the attitude that we are born to be adaptive, and as artists, the only way you survive, like the only reason 30 years into doing this that I'm still...
Yeah, because you started at 14.
Yeah, I started in 92. I was 14 years old, started recording on a boombox in my bedroom, and that was my first recordings. But I was always just... I went with it. Like I never... Like there is... With the industry and stuff and with the internet and media, you can look at it critically, and it's good to do that sometimes and go, okay, is Spotify, does streaming pay enough? Are these sort of things fair? But I don't like to waste too much time worrying about that. I prefer to just go, how do we keep moving forward? How do we keep moving forward? And so, like everybody else, I have a much more probably diversified career than I had in the 90s or early 2000s. But I don't know, I kind of like that. I sort of like the fun of that it keeps changing and moving and you have to keep evolving. So the short answer is no. Like I'm really grateful that I had a few hits that cut across in that way.
Because I think
But I don't expect everything to do that. You know?
Yeah, no. Because I think you were like even an ad.
Yeah,
Like,
tons of those.
Tons of ads. I remember like maybe it was like IJ or
Yeah.
something, like was one of your songs. Like it was...
Those things keep the food on the table. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They keep you, it's like, I'm really grateful for those kind of, it's funny when people like, even people who've only had one hit and they get called like a one hit wonder. It's like, do you know how grateful that artist is for that one hit? Because it's probably put their kid through private school or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Does
So,
streaming pay well?
streaming, not
Like Spotify?
Yeah, not at my level. It pays, but it really pays in a way that's really sort of effective at the highest levels. Because, I mean, you can really get into the weeds with this, but basically labels did deals in private
Right.
with the streamers, so artists weren't really privy to that. But then certain artists, when they get to the very top of the game, the Taylor Swifts and the Foo Fighters and all that, some of those have apparently cut their own deals with streamers.
Right.
So it's not exactly a level playing field, but you know, it's a dirty game.
Yeah. Taylor Swift's an animal though. Like I could not do what she's doing. Like I think when she was on tour, she was running marathons to like train for tour.
Yeah, have you ever seen the video of Miley Cyrus doing her vocal warm-ups running on a treadmill?
No.
It's so crazy because she has like difficult, you know, like high belting vocals
Yeah.
too. And then but she makes sure she can do it like running at full pace on a treadmill.
It's actually really good cardio this was back in like my cheerleading days. They used to make us do handstands.
Did you do the flying and all that stuff?
Yes.
Really? They had
Yeah.
that in Australia.
Yeah, it was
didn't know
very
that.
niche. We went to Worlds, and I'm going to say we probably went because we were up against like not many other Aussies.
Right.
But I still went.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Still competed.
So how many people did you grow up in a big city or were you
I grew up in Sydney.
Okay,
so I trained in Sydney. And then
Yeah.
when I came back from Worlds, I was either like, am I going to go back with this same team or am I going to progress? And to progress was actually training in Newcastle. There was a
wow.
really gun gym in Newcastle. But now it's like everywhere. Like I know one street on the Northern Beaches, there's 3 gyms now.
Really?
Yeah, it's like,
Okay.
it's big.
Interesting.
But it's so funny watching back on like Bring It On. I used
Yeah.
to be like, whoa, that's so cool. Like it was more intense than that. We were doing handstands and having to sing songs to like
Wow.
up the cardio. Not that I'm a singer or anything, but it's freaking hard.
Yeah, look, I think all that stuff is, especially in the world of pop music, it's really interesting because there are obviously some amazing, it's like they're athletes, they're CEOs, they're like some of these people at the really of the pop music world, like
Yeah.
the Beyonce and Taylor Swift and all these people. I have a peripheral interest in it. I'm really into the music side and
Yeah.
I feel like, I mean, it's weird. I just feel like sometimes the music is a little undercooked. Like I really think the music is like not as good as the visuals often.
Yeah.
So I feel mixed about it. Like I feel very, like when I think about some of these like amazing pop stars, I actually admire them most as CEOs.
Yeah.
I think of them
understand
more
that.
as like Tim Cook at Apple or something like that. Like I think Taylor Swift is going to go down in history as the greatest American CEO of our era.
Yeah.
For sure. But to me, that doesn't necessarily equate with, I want to listen to the music or something. You know?
Yeah. I actually never really listened to the music until she was just about to come to Australia. I was going to a wedding in the Gold Coast and we were getting shuttle buses. And like we hadn't drunk or anything, but going through the hinterlands like this on a windy bus, it was hard to like, you know, settle your stomach. And a girl sitting next to me said, here, put my headphones in. And it was Taylor Swift. And I was like, cool. I'm going to listen. And then now I like it because it reminds me of that time that I was on a bus and I was trying to hold myself together and listen to Taylor Swift.
Well,
and it was
there
all
you
good.
go. There you go. Positive association.
Seriously. So a bit of a random one. You've been with your partner since 2008? Or you got married
Yeah,
in
we got
2008?
married in 2008. I think we got together in like 2005 or
That's
6 or
exactly what
something.
I talk about. You guys
Okay.
had a Hindu wedding.
Yeah.
But neither of you guys
Yeah.
are Hindu.
Well, I was in a cult. So
Like a real life
yeah, like with a Hindu guru. So that
In
was
America?
in India.
In India.
Yeah, so I was
How
traveling
did that
back and
happen?
forth. Oh, it's a bit of a long story, but I've
I got
always,
time, Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I was always seeking madness. Mm-hmm. Like it's interesting. I meet a lot of young musicians now, and they're so professional. Like they're looking at their data and their demographics and where their audience. I wasn't interested in any of that. I was interested in bending my mind and emulating like just like the idea that like art and life and romance and sex, it should like drive you into insanity. And that's where art and beauty and music come from. So I was always chasing things out on the fringes of normalcy. And
How old were you?
when that started,
Yeah,
I
when
mean,
you
I was
went
like
to
that as a
India.
kid.
No, when you
Oh,
went to
then, well, that, I think I met that guru in probably 2002.
How
or
do you
something
even
like
meet a
that.
guru?
Well, again, it's like one thing leads to, you know, it's
Yeah.
like, how do you, how did someone get into listening to Metallica? Well, first they listened to Bon Jovi
Yeah.
and then they went a little heavier, little heavier, little heavier.
I have never met a guru in my life.
Yeah, but you got to be like I was, you know, I was in a
Law
tripper.
of
I was an
Attraction, though.
explorer.
I've been
Yeah.
listening to Law of the Attraction at the moment.
Yeah.
It's actually a book, but
Yeah.
I was like, I need to listen to this man.
Yeah.
It needs to get into my brain. So maybe you manifested stumbling across.
Yeah,
the
I mean,
guru.
but I was seeking it out.
Yeah.
I was like basically from when I was, I started playing music when I was 14, and my goal was just to bust out of a normal life, like not to have a normal life. Like I wanted to meet crazy people. I wanted big experience. So it just leads you.
What do
further
you
and
even do
further.
in a cult?
Well,
Are you allowed to talk
they're
about
all-
it?
Yeah, well, I'm not in it anymore, so
But will they
I
come
don't
for you?
follow any rules. No one will come. I mean, I don't think so. I've been in a few cults though. But the thing about it is sometimes the only reason I don't like name them or anything is like I actually think like sometimes then people can actually fall into things by researching them.
Yes.
So I just
You don't want to be responsible.
yeah, I've done that. I've been there and
Understand.
done that. I've dragged people down into
It's
that.
kind of
you
like
know,
a MLM scheme.
yeah, it is, or like hard drugs or something. You know what I mean? It's like it's addictive stuff.
But what do you do in the cult? Like, is this like a commune living or like?
No, well, I never lived. It was that particular cult was based around a lot of mantras and prayers and devotion and Hindu rituals, and you know, it's all about trying to bust open your mind and heart and find enlightenment, and you know, so I mean, all kinds of weird shit.
When I think of the word cult, my brain goes into two different like.
Netflix or
Yeah, so Netflix,
Yeah.
my Netflix brain is like the like Christianity ones
Yeah,
where
yeah.
they all have like 1 billion babies to the
oh, like
yeah.
the Mormon LDS
yeah,
and all
yeah.
that. Yeah.
And then my the other part of my brain goes to, have you seen these like spiritual healing camps in like Indonesia and stuff where people are literally like rocking back and forth,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
vomiting and stuff because they're like doing the full body cleanse and
Oh,
they're
yeah.
taking pretty much poison
Yeah,
and they have to be like held down.
yeah.
So your cult wasn't like
Well,
that at all.
I, you know, I did a lot of exploring. So I was in like a Taoist Qigong group, which were like, they call it an internal martial art, which was all about manipulation of energy and healing and all of that. And that kind of led me into the Hindu cult, which is much more about the idea of the divine feminine and I don't know, like just a lot of trust, like about building trust in the universe. And then I went into a Peruvian, like a cult, Gnostic Christian ayahuasca cult, and I did that for a few years, and then that was the end. Then I put it all behind me. I was like, I'm
Done.
just do music. I like music.
What did your family think? Did they know?
Yeah, I think my family was. Yeah, well, we got married. Like our families came, and you know,
So did you meet your partner through a cult?
No,
or
no,
yeah.
no.
Did you introduce
But
her
I
to the cults?
did do mushrooms with my partner and her family the first time I met them on Christmas Eve.
I feel like that shit is
1996.
kind of like
That's just LA.
Christmas Eve though.
Yeah, that's just LA. That's just like, you know. Yeah, but yeah, I sort of dragged her into it, but and I feel bad about that, but we got out of it too. But I think that's part of coming back to what you were saying, like that's part of being together over a long period, and
Yeah.
having a marriage is you are going to go through different phases,
eras,
challenges, jobs, obsessions,
Well,
goals.
it's good you guys got the cult one out of the way.
Yeah, and you kind of got to work through it together, and you build trust, and you build I think the trust in marriage, it's a very slow process to build it. Like people yell at each other for not trusting each other when they've been together 6 months. Why would you trust this person?
No, I think about that all the time.
It's like absurd. You've got to earn trust.
Yeah.
And trust is earned over years. It's earned through like integrity of character. And
Yeah.
now like my wife and I, like we look at each other and we're just sort of like, we've been through it. We've been on the front lines. We've fought battles together. We've made it through things, and there's actual trust. You know?
Yeah, well, that also comes unconditional love. And just also a quick shout out to Jockalicious. He got engaged in the holidays. Recently, you posted it, so I feel like I can talk about it. But Nine Honey came out with what I would say is an iconic title, but it said how Ben Lee became the most unliked artist of whatever, Australia.
Yeah.
Why did they choose that? Because I think they also like quoted you from an interview that you had done. So
Yeah.
I think it was kind of based around you having opposing opinions or like just having freedom of speech pretty much.
I think that, again, going back to what my goals were in having a career in the creative industry, was never to please everyone. Like, to me, that just seems like a boring career.
Super boring.
And without, like, you know, there's people in my industry in Australia that I don't want to, like, there's been pile-ons before, but that are so clearly at the mercy of their audience or their church or their label, or where you just feel like, what does this person actually stand for outside of the pressures that they're under.
Yeah.
So I would go further than that. And I believe that actually, like, I have this thing with John Mayer, who I like as an artist. He's fine, but I'm philosophically opposed to what he does because I see his job as soothing his audience.
Yeah.
Like, he's just the most soothing presence. He's a smooth dude. I've always wanted to disrupt my audience. Like, I've wanted to irritate them. I've wanted to challenge them. I've also wanted to love them. I've wanted to make them laugh. Then I've wanted to yell at them. Then like I just see it as sort of like the job of the artist to be real and to, I don't know, yeah, like help you break out of your preconceptions, I suppose. Yeah. So a lot of it came back to, I got really into, there was a comedian from the 70s and 80s called Andy Kaufman who his thing, this was like long before like Ali G and, you know,
we don't have that
Nathan
type
Fielder
of comedy anymore though.
No. Well, you know, Nathan Fielder, I don't know if you know him, like Nathan For You and The Rehearsal, like he's in that realm. But Andy Kaufman pretty much created it and he just tried to get people to hate him. And I loved that. I thought that type of, that's like my favorite type of rock star in a way. So I just remember in like the late 90s thinking, gosh, how can I get the most people to hate me? Like in Australia, like what does that look like? Like I'm trying to reverse engineer it. And I knew that the key, like the pain point was the tall poppy syndrome.
Yeah.
Because that is
Still
the
exists.
most reactive side of the Australian psyche where Aussies like do not like it if you think too much of yourself or whatever. So I was like, oh, this is so easy. So every interview I did for about a year, I said, I'm the greatest Australian artist of all time. And this album is the greatest Australian album of all time. And people that understood it and had the right sense of humor and understood what I'm trying to do, like was like playing with the media, they loved it. Like actually Robbie Williams wrote one of the lyrics in that song Kids, his song with Kylie, that was like a reference to something I was saying. Kylie told me, he said, when he said, I've been dropping beats since Back in Black, that was a reference that in every interview I was like, my album's the best album since Back in Black. I just kept saying it over and over. He got it. Because, you know, Robbie Williams would like understand that sense of humor. Yeah. But Bernard Fanning from Powderfinger hated it. You know what I mean? And
he thought it was disrespectful? Or?
Yeah, he came out in the media and called me a precocious little cunt. Whatever. We've like made up since then. But the point is, there is a certain aspect of kind of Australian consciousness that my whole thing was like, people were like, what the hell? This is, you know, so some of that has carried with me through my career. And I don't know, like I'm not as into deliberately provoking people anymore, but I also will never spare the feelings of the audience or the media my truth. Yeah. I'll never not say something just because it's going to make someone uncomfortable. And sometimes I think my whole approach sometimes makes people uncomfortable. It's changed a lot now. Like there's like, if I look at a lot of younger artists, like friends of mine, like Mole Rat and Amel and the Sniffers, and like there's a bravado that has become more acceptable.
I do think they all still are quite heavily dictated by management though. Like
maybe.
I just feel like people are fitting a character to please the business side.
Yeah, maybe. Some of them are doing it themselves though, not management. Like I don't mean those artists. I mean, but because of, like I said, all the data that we have, it can lead you into pandering to an audience, like, because you know what they want. And like, I've always believed that artists should be more like doctors. Like, you should give them what they need, not what they want. You know what I mean? Medicine, you shouldn't really want the medicine. You just have to take the medicine. Yeah. So that's how I see it, as like, so I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I don't have management. I don't really, I just think your best bet, hey buddy, I think your best bet for like long-term longevity and success is really doing it your own way. Yeah. And ruffling a few feathers is nothing to be worried about.
I think as well though, like you can happily die being like, I was me.
Yeah. And I still like I remember when a few years ago when Abby Chatfield started popping off on TikTok, and that's where when she just started her pod, and I was just like, that's my type of rock star. Like, I like her. I
Yeah.
like that. So I'm always drawn to people that are like a bit brash, they piss people off a little bit. They make mistakes. They apologize for them. You know what I mean? Like, part of it is that I think the fear everyone has, they think they have to be perfect. And often it's interesting. It's sort of like the, I don't know, the Notes app kind of culture of like, oh, I better be prepared to apologize for like, I'll just either say, yeah, I was wrong. You're totally right. I was wrong. Or I'll just be like, no, I disagree. I just don't think it needs to be that dramatic.
No, I did watch Abby's stories the other day, and she was saying, like, people were trying to get her to apologize for something, and she was like, I refuse. Like, I am not a product. Like, I'm a human being. And she was like, yes, I went on a reality show, but, you don't get to nitpick me. I'm my own person. You can have your own opinions, and if you don't like it, just leave my platform.
Yeah, and I don't agree with Abby all the time. I agree with
I agree with her.
Quite a bit of her, but I like the way she goes about it. And she's like, I mean, for her it's a little bit of a different thing, because she's gone more into the way social media works now is almost getting a reaction actually propels your career forward.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So in a way now it's like we're in more of an outrage bait culture. Yeah. But I just like, it's the punk rock side. It's like, I like that you can piss the audience off. And I think artists shouldn't be scared to piss the audience off and make music that is unexpected. And that the idea that you would try and make music every album that is like pleasing your audience. Like, I want to surprise my audience.
Do you have the same fan base? Because you released an album last year.
Yeah, my fan base has come and gone and ebbed and flowed, and it's like because I've been doing it for 30 years, so I've had like pretty much every time you have like a big, like a commercial moment, a whole new wave of people come in for that moment. And then they just gently flow back, and some remain. And then you have another one a few years later and more. But it's like, I don't know, it like every now and then, like I look out at the audience and now it's interesting because there are a lot of younger artists sort of like, like I did this collaboration with All Day this year. Like a lot of like younger artists have been sort of like, I don't know, giving me my flowers or whatever. So that's brought a bit of a young audience in and through TikTok and stuff. But I'll look and there's like grandparents and there'll be people that come up and go, oh, yours was the record that like my heartbreak as a teenager I used to listen to. God. And now they're like parents and, it's like, it's kind of fun. I don't look at it in terms of like the audience owes me staying with me every step of the way and following. It's just not, I don't really think of it like that. Like you're either a Swiftie or not. You're not either a Bentley fan or not. Like my music and what I have to say, it can be part of your life at a moment, then it can not be, then it's okay.
Well, it's kind of like fashion. Like we're not always going to have the same fashion sense. It's always changing. But it's funny, we did have a similar conversation when Greg came on from the Wiggles, and he was like, when we do reunion shows, like it's so interesting seeing the people that have kids now, and they're like, I take my kids to the show, and so they've had fan base for a really long time. But like you said, it's not like a Swiftie sitch. It's a ebbs and flows.
Yeah, and it's cool. And I think it's like fun I've always wanted to actually be part of culture. I don't have that side of me that needs to be the center of it. Like there's some people that absolutely need to dominate their industry.
Yeah.
I don't have that. I want to be in the conversation. Like I like to be invited to the party, to the conversation. I don't need the spotlight on me there. I want to like contribute. I want to be part of it.
Yeah. It actually reminds me of you put something out in regards to, maybe it was the ARIA Awards recently. You were saying to artists like, it's not that deep pretty much.
Yeah, like the awards are really interesting because they're a marketing tool.
Yeah.
They're created by the industry to inflate a sense of artificial competition and importance to the releases of the last 12 months that in reality it's like they're just records and we're going to make a lot more and some are going to be better or worse or do better. And there's no objective consensus on like what is a good album or what's a bad one. It's a game.
Yeah.
It's a game. And it's fun to play that game. Like when I get a great review, I'm really happy about it.
Yeah.
But I'm also not looking at it as gospel truth. You know what I mean? So I just look at it in terms of like part of anytime I'm in a sort of slightly mentoring role or something, like talking to younger artists, I think being in that balance of perspective where you both are a participant in the game, but you're also not fully defined by it, is really that's the way to be in pop culture. Like I always say, the mainstream is a nice place to visit, but you wouldn't want to live there.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you'll be fully dictated. You've got a company, Weirder Together.
Yeah.
So you do the podcast,
Yeah.
you do, what else do you do?
So basically, like, me and my wife, Ione, like, we just have always done different creative projects. So at a certain point, we just said, okay, what's unifying everything we do? It's just our taste. We make cool shit with cool people. Like, that's what we are interested in. So we just sort of formalized it as a little company, and the podcast is the hub of that, Weirder Together. But then, we've got a kids animated TV show that's in development at a network at the moment. We've got we've released.
Great timing. Bluey's wrapping up.
Yeah, exactly. We've so we just sort of sold that at the Asian Animation Summit in Taiwan, which is where Bluey sold to, and we have released podcasts, we've released records, we put out my music, we've done events, like we had Amel and the Sniffers play in our living room.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, so we kind of look at it in terms of like, yeah, it's a company, but it's really just like whatever we're into.
Yeah.
And we do have a slight, like, it should feel not too safe. Like everything we do should have a little bit of kind of edge to it, but not in a way that's contrived. It's just because that's actually sort of our taste, So we just want it all to feel a little bit like, whoa, like more like not edge, like danger, like playful.
Yeah.
Like the way when kids play, like imagine you gave kids a bunch of cans of paint and said, have fun with it. It's a little scary.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's about to happen. You know it's going to be a mess. That's our approach to creativity too.
Fun. You also have tour coming up?
Well, I'm sort of currently on tour all the time. I did 91 shows last year.
Jesus.
Around Australia, mostly regional, and loved it. It's like
Why is that mainly regional? Because I looked at your current tour and
Yeah.
I was like, where is my local?
Well, because the thing is, like, if you only play major cities, there's 7 gigs.
Yeah.
And you can't do them 3 times in the year. You can do them once in the year. So if you're a musician who likes to play live, regional touring in Australia, I think it's just like kind of exploding in a way, because particularly post-COVID, a lot of really cool people with great taste moved to smaller towns. And because of the internet, you don't need to be living in a cultural hub
No.
to be connected to culture. So it used to be that if you played a small town and I went out there and in the 90s, they wouldn't know who Sonic Youth were. They wouldn't know, you know what I mean? They just wouldn't know what was going on culturally. Whereas now it's like, we're all in the same conversation. It's an online conversation.
Yeah.
So I love it. And mostly I do it like totally by myself. No band, no tour manager.
Wow.
No set lists. I get up there. Every night's totally different.
Do you
then
take requests?
Yeah. So then I have like the audience started coming to multiple shows in the year because everyone was different. And you just realize it was like, oh, we're in a conversation. I'm in a conversation with the audience.
I do think people in regional towns, though, respect live music more than people here.
Well, they're grateful for it when you come.
Yeah.
Because I do have kind of a joke I usually make that, like, if I play, particularly there's some small regional towns where it just sells out in 10 minutes. You don't know whether they are actually fans of your music or it's just something to do.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'll take it.
That's fair. Well, I would love to know a rogue moment that you would be happy to share.
Yeah. So how do you define a rogue moment?
Well,
Because my whole life is a rogue moment.
a rogue moment. We've out of the past like 30 plus episodes, there's been a wide range. We've had an Olympian's flaps hanging out of her swimsuit.
So is something going wrong?
Could go wrong. It could be like the best night of your life. Like Husey said that he was super stoned when he was like 14 and was really high up in a tree. But he didn't think that was wrong. It was rogue.
I guess...
I feel like the cults are pretty rogue though.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, exactly. I'm thinking of risk, because I think like rogue to me, it signifies risk. We often have as entertainers, you're taught to be like risk averse, you know, and try and control things.
You got risk management.
Yeah. I'll tell you a rogue moment that I was sort of on the receiving end of.
All right.
It's a rogue moment I was part of, but more as a recipient. But it came to symbolize to me why certain people are successful
Okay.
and others aren't. And it was to do with the nature, the capacity.
Do you mean in like a selfish way?
Possibly. I just mean to do with determination and
Okay.
ambition. When I was about 21 years old, I was playing at a club called the 930 Club in Washington, D.C., which is one of the great rock clubs in America. I was playing with this band, Cracker. And I came backstage to my dressing room, and there are these two pimply teenagers sitting on the couch in my dressing room with like eyeliner and like punk t-shirts and stuff. And I was like, can I help you guys?
It's a bit random for a show of yours.
Well, it's not just that. They're backstage. Like, it's
Where's
random.
your AA pass?
Well, it's just anyone being at a show, you know. It's like, and they were like, we snuck back. We're fans of yours. And we want to meet you. And I was like, okay. I was like, do you guys have a band? They're like, yeah, we've just started a band. And so I grabbed my guitar and I ran downstairs, grabbed my guitar, brought it back. I said, play me a song. And they started playing, and it was, the harmony was so beautiful. They were brothers. So beautiful. And the spirit, I was like, these guys are going to be famous. I was like, this is so obviously, they have like, just like the courage and the chutzpah and the nerve to like sneak backstage to believe that you have something worthy of sharing. And I was blown away, and I was like, I'll see you guys down the road. And it was Good Charlotte.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I'm still friends with them.
That is so cool.
That was close to 30 years ago. That's 25 years ago. But and I know that's not exactly what you were saying, but to me that they took a rogue moment, but then I indulged it. Because a lot of artists would kick people out.
That's an egotistic thing.
And
though.
artists would just be like, oh, what are you guys doing here? Sorry, I can't talk to anyone before the show. But I recognized what is in them is in me.
Yeah.
Same thing when I saw Abby Chatfield on TikTok. I was like, what's in her is in me.
Yeah.
I know this type of personality. And I supported it. I was like, jam it out for me, guys. And we've always had a bond since then. And so I think the capacity to go rogue, to go off the map, to take a risk, to like, you know, you might get kicked out. You might get told, you know, that your voice isn't needed there. Whatever it is, that capacity is probably the single biggest mark of someone that is going to make an impact. It doesn't happen by accident.
That was not a selfish story at all. That was selfless.
Okay, good.
And you know what? That's funny that you were saying that when you were speaking. I was thinking, what's that show, like the singing show where the judges are face their
The
back?
Voice.
The Voice.
Yeah.
I think one of them was a judge on there.
Yeah, I was the helper. I was the coach, like assistant.
Oh, really?
On one season.
I was gonna say, like, you would be a really good judge on there.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I was Joel. That was another thing where like our lives of me and those guys have just our lives have intertwined over and over. I'll tell you something funny about that show, and I think this is probably the case with all of these music talent shows. They are such a closed loop of input. So you are there for days, you know, long days, listening to these artists, watching them perform, and you get into an altered reality where I went from, I mean, these people are all fine. That's kind of how I was thinking about it. Like, if you've heard a lot of music,
Yeah.
by the end of the day, I'm giving standing ovations because you've forgotten that any music existed outside of these
I think
shows.
that's called
you
the
know?
cheerleader mentality or cheerleader pact. It's where like you're surrounded by so much, you just think that it's all the same kind of standard.
Yeah. And it takes, so that was really interesting about that. But I did enjoy that. And I do think that, you know, I was really lucky. Like, I started at 14, but a lot of people start bands at 14. That's not that weird to be in your parents' garage. Maybe now it's a little weirder, but still kids have Ableton or GarageBand and they're like making music. the reason my career became a career was because I was mentored. Like I had people from other bands, Beastie Boys, Sonic Youth, this guy Steve Pav, a local promoter. They helped me. They said, hey, we like what you're doing. Can we support you? And so I feel like having been the recipient of that type of support,
Yeah.
it's not only my opportunity, but it's my obligation to pay that forward and offer that to young artists. Like I think that if you're lucky enough to have a long career in any field, mentoring and bringing people up to where you are is the only way you can stay creative, stay connected and move forward and give back.
Well, I have a little game for you.
Okay.
And first episode back of the year, I was not being very creative, so I've stuck with Would You Rather.
Okay.
First one's a bit weird, but it was the first thing that came into my head. Would you rather penis fingers or castanets as fingers?
I think, are the penis fingers like fully functional? Like, are they excitable? They're like exciting. It's a fun, sensual experience.
It's an organ. They're organs.
I see these. The weird thing about this question is these are both positives.
I don't know about the castanets.
Well, I'm a musician.
Yeah.
So
okay,
for
fair.
me, if I had castanet fingers, I'd be going crazy.
But then you can't play the guitar.
Oh, that's a good point. But, you know, honestly, singer-songwriters who play the guitar, that is a crowded marketplace.
Fair.
I would have a real competitive advantage being the singer-songwriter who worked with the castanet fingers. So I'd have to choose that. But, you know, both of them would probably be good for content.
Good content. Because you can also, in public, you could put gloves on your penises.
That's true. That's true, yeah.
Okay, the next one. Keep the voice you have, like singing voice, but every time you finish a song, you vomit. Or sound similar to how you do, not as good, but you heavily rely on auto-tune.
No, I definitely do the vomiting. To me, I've taken a lot of ayahuasca, which you vomit every time you take it. I'm not scared of vomiting.
What is ayahuasca?
It's a psychedelic from the Amazon. It's
That's the one that makes you throw
Yeah,
up.
yeah. So I've done that. I've done that.
Do you
30,
feel
40
different
times.
after?
Oh yeah, yeah. It
Do you
changes
like
your
it?
life. Yeah.
You reckon?
Oh, for sure.
I
But
watch
mean,
the videos all the time, but mainly
it's not for
because I'm
everyone,
like,
you know, it's
they
not-
always cut it off before like they come through the other side.
Well, it's like the experience you have. It's like a dream. So
Right. Do you know you're vomiting?
yeah,
Okay.
you are.
I
But
don't think I would like that.
usually, like it's like when you have a big dream. How useful that is to you is really based on your ability to interpret it.
Mm-hmm.
Like some people, have you ever had that thing where someone has a dream, like you get a friend calling you, like, "Oh my God, I dreamed something terrible happened to you." That they've had a projection of their own unconscious and subconscious, and if their answer to that is to call you, they've done no exploration of what that dream might possibly mean to them about their life. You know what I mean? So psychedelics are kind of similar. Like it can just become another experience that doesn't do anything. It's just like, oh, we had a big night, you know,
Yeah.
or it can become a sort of springboard to change your life. So it's very like in the eye of the beholder. You know?
I have never dreamt about my friends in danger.
Yeah.
The only thing that's ever happened is like I've dreamt about sleeping with my friends and that's it.
Okay. But have you ever had a dream that you were like, is that literal? Like that there was a fire in your house, or that there was something where you were like, then were worried about it actually happening? You've never had that?
Not really.
Yeah, okay.
No, the only thing close to it is like after I had my son, I would have, God, what's the name for it? It's like close to, no, not deja vu. Close to like postnatal anxiety. It's like where you like envision bad things happening to your child.
Yeah.
I had that a lot for the first 2 months after I had him, and it's recently come back. Like I'm
how
like,
old is he?
He's 2.5.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, go take him fishing. And then I'm like, wait, what if he falls out of the boat and then he comes out of the life jacket and he just sinks straight to the bottom, even though he's been doing swimming lessons for the last 2 years?
I mean, at the risk of being incredibly banal, you know, I have a 15-year-old daughter and a 23-year-old stepdaughter, and you never stop worrying about them.
Yeah,
so it's
that's
just also part
true.
of being a parent that I think
but
we
that's like the
we
closest
pathologize
I've ever
it. You know?
gotten.
Yeah, okay,
Like I've
gotcha.
had thoughts, and then I'm like, wait, is that actually
Yeah.
going to happen?
It's really
But never
scary.
dreams.
Anxiety, like the way anxiety enters your life in a new way as a parent is like, it's pretty intense.
Yeah, because I never really had that before. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I'd be like, holy shit, I think my parents might pass away before I do.
Yeah.
And that would just be the worst thing ever. But that's like the most extreme I had. So it was a bit of a shock to me when I was, as a parent, being like, what the fuck? Why am I thinking those nasty things?
Yeah.
But anyway, I think it would be more fun if I was on drugs and thinking about other things.
Yeah,
but
there you go. Well, there's time.
no,
Once
I
he's
like,
out of the toddler phase. You know.
I like the microdosing.
Okay, yeah.
Microdosing is good for me because it just, I get the giggles and
Yeah.
everything's a great time.
Yeah, well, that's good. I think I've always been more inclined to like deliberately wanting to see what happens when I'm not in control. And sometimes I think microdosing is like,
I panic. I couldn't do it.
yeah, but that's the truth. You know, that's the reality. Like sometimes I think, like I like microdosing too, but sometimes I think it's like the capitalist way of dealing with psychedelics. It's like, let's turn it into productivity and having a nice night. And you know what I mean? As opposed to like, let's bring you to your knees, you know,
Yeah.
which I kind of like. You know?
Had a bad time when I was like 15, and then after that I was like, I'm never doing that again.
Why do you think psychedelics should be allowed for anyone under 40?
No.
I think they're like something for grown-ups.
I'm not even grown up enough to do it. That's
it's
like,
like-
I don't trust me.
It should come with, it's like a rite of passage when there's a level of maturity, I think. Who knows? That's
Once
not
my
how it is.
frontal lobe has fully developed,
yeah.
and I feel like they say like when you're like 25 or 26 as a
Okay.
female, that's when it's meant
Wait,
to be.
how old are you?
It's not. I'm 27 and it's
Okay.
not.
You still feel it?
Yeah, sometimes I look at my son and I'm like, I'm your parent.
Yeah.
Like I went to the bike store the other day
Yeah.
because he's been loving jumping on the back. And now that I've got a proper seat for him, before I was putting him in the basket,
Yeah.
but that's not allowed in Sydney.
They're
You
like
don't-
E.T.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like it's fine when you're like rural.
That's fair enough. Did you put a little helmet on him at least?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
had to do something. And I just, every like 30 seconds be like, hold on tight.
Yeah, yeah.
So I went on Marketplace, bought a seat for him, and I thought, you know what, someone might actually nick my bike now that there's something nice on it.
Right.
So I went down to the bike shop and I got a lock, and I said to the guy, I'm so sorry, but you're going to have to show me how to work it. Like, how do you make your own code?
Right.
And I was watching him, talk me through it, and I was thinking, I can't believe I'm someone's fucking parent.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, maybe I'm not old enough.
But I don't know. Part of it is, I think, just having the humility to realize that life is absurd.
So
I mean,
weird.
I can't tell you how many times I've stood on a stage and it's been like, what am I doing? Like, I've had this job for 30 years. That's a long time to be doing a job for.
That is.
But I still can't believe it. And the fact that it's not the same job, it's like evolved so many times, and I've wanted to express different things, but generally an audience sort of goes, we're interested in hearing you sing about that. Like, it's just sort of absurd. So,
It's a weird phenomenon.
yeah, it's just weird, man. It really is an adventure.
Well, on that note,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate it. What a banger way to start the year for us.
Thanks for having me.
And maybe I can pop some of the New South Wales dates in the Spotify bio, so people can have a look and show up. If
What,
they
New South,
want.
what are you, a regional podcast?
No, I'm
You
just
don't want to
being
go
biased.
for the whole country?
Well, I mean, you said you got many shows, so I'm like,
yeah.
I'm just like trying to picture
Okay,
like
okay, you
if
pop a few, you want
if
to-
you've
yeah.
got like 20 shows
yeah.
in New South Wales,
Okay.
I'm probably not going to add WA.
Fair enough, fair enough. You can put a link. You can put a link to my
I'll put the
website.
link.
That'll work. That'll be good.
I'll do the link to the website. That was me trying to be logical,
Okay.
but the link's probably
Good.
better. Let's put the link in the podcast bio. Thank you.
That's a good ending.
Thanks for listening to A Bit Rogue, where we uncover the stories of athletes, artists, and celebrities with their most rogue moments. Episodes dropping every Wednesday.